All right, hello and welcome to another video. I'm going to try my best to uh, make more videos here on this channel. It's just, it's hard to talk about the time that I was actually there. And it don't get really any easier as time goes on. So I might as well just go ahead and tell things of the stories as I was there. Things that happened that some of it's good and some of it's not. The system is completely broken. It's whacked. From falsely accused, falsely arrested, falsely imprisonment. No person, man or woman, child, or anyone, should have to sit behind a place like that when it is so obvious that they are innocent and the facts and the evidence prove it. But the DA and attorneys and all, they just, especially the DA, they will take no sympathy or look at reality of the facts and the evidence that proves you innocent. All they worry about, in my case, all they were worrying about was put a little another notch in their belt. They want to pin it on somebody. And I was the guinea pig. Well, it didn't work out the way they wanted it. They tried. But at the end, I was victoriously winning and got out of there and got compensated for it. But little things when you're in there that makes no sense. Like they give you these pieces of paper, like if you want anything changed on your meal, like you don't want no fried foods or you don't want no vegetables, or so many different things. And then it gives you, say you don't want no fried food, then it gives you a choice of what do you want to replace it with when they have fried food on the meals. Well, I tried many times to choose something else because I don't like real deep fried food. It just don't agree with me. And why should I miss a meal or be discomforted just because I'm basically forced to eat fried food? I mean, I can eat fried food, but I have to eat it in small portions. Like if I go get fried shrimp platter or whatever, I get, I eat maybe 6 or 7 shrimp and so it's just why give out a piece of paper for me to choose and alter something when you're not going to do it? Makes no sense. I've tried many times different things on the alternate food request form, and I didn't see no change in what I asked for at all. And I wasn't the only one. I had other people in there that saying the same thing. I'm like, then what's the purpose of giving them pieces of paper out for us to fill out when you're not going to do a freaking thing about it? It's like torture almost. And if they see you're not eating, not because you're not hungry, it's because you don't want to eat what they give you because it don't agree with you, then they're trying to say that you're resisting, and then they try to put you in the green room. You try to starve yourself, or they just comes up with all kinds of stuff. Now, I never got to that point. I just ate very little of it. I didn't eat all of it. But I saw some in there that just flat out refused to eat. Some refused to eat anything that they gave them, and then they put them in the turtle suit. It's basically a foamed blanket that you put on, and that's all you have on, and you're in a cell, and you don't have nothing else at all in there. It is, I think they call it you on suicide watch. Then we have people in there that just want to act up a fool. As you know, any place like that has to have a sprinkler system. Well, it has a sprinkler in every cell. And it has that little bubble glass in there that when fire hits it, it melts it and it triggers it and turns it on. Well, of course, you can reach it because the ceiling is not that tall. And some will go in there and just snap that sucker and set it off, flood their cell, water come pouring out from underneath the door. And of course, when someone does that, the whole cell there, the whole block, whether that's block A, B, C, whatever, you're in, everybody gets put on lockdown until they get all the water up, get the sprinkler system turned off, and get it fixed. And when you have lockdown, it don't matter when it is. It can be hours, at sometimes be days. It's almost like 2 or 3 people will get together and plan to interrupt everybody else's free time, because we have a thing called rec time, and we get out 2 hours, like in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. Not all of us at the same time in that particular pod. It's like 2 people will get out, sometimes 3. Depends on how many was actually in there and what they're in there for. They pair them up. Say we get out from 1 to 3, and somebody messes with the fire sprinkler system at 12:30. It might be until 4 o'clock before they can get the water turned off and get a maintenance guy in there to come and fix it. Then you got to get an inspection to look at it and be sure it's done right. And then they got to turn the water on. They got to get the water up. It takes time. Sometimes they can get it fixed, but they can't turn the water back on until the next day because the inspection or whatever they have to get is not available. So it can mess up. I think the longest I was in there without getting out at all, something like 5 days in a room, like I think it's like 6 or 8 feet by like 12, 14 for basically a week. And it happened quite often. Not that particular long period of time, but it can mess up at least a day or at least one of the rec times. It usually seems like it was 3 o'clock and after is when they seem to do that more often. I don't know why it was that, but that seems to be, it was always in the evening or sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning. They go banging on the metal door, just banging and banging and banging. And you can't sleep because it's all concrete in there and it just echoes and echoes. And sometimes the water system or the hot water will go on a fritz and have, days without any hot water whatsoever. have to take a shower in cold water. I mean, pure cold water. It's almost like well water, very cold. It was, some say well, they doing that on purpose. Some say they not. I mean, I don't know. It really didn't matter. Every day I get out, I'm taking a shower regardless if it's hot or cold. Even during the day, they get, you have a wash rag and they get you a little soap and all. And sometimes I do a bird bath, wash my face, my arms, whatever I can, just to keep nice and cool and comfortable. Because it's pretty much the only thing you got, unless you're eating, you sleeping, and if you lucky enough to get money put on your canteen machine, your account, that you can buy things, you can have a radio and listen to radio, but it takes batteries. And when the batteries, you got to place an order for more batteries. You can't have but so many batteries in your cell at a time. So it's not like you can buy 4 or 5 packs of batteries and hold them in your cell, and when one pair goes out, you throw them out and you get another pair. And no, you got to get pretty good timing of when you know your batteries are going to go dead. You can place another order for batteries and have them before the ones you got actually go dead. You have to get a system going. It's and sometimes the AC goes on the fritz. Sometimes it's like no AC at all, and it's just blowing air, and it starts getting quite warm. And then sometimes it does the very opposite. It gets 55, 60 degrees in there, and it'll run. At one time, we had that thing running for over a week, 24/7, in air conditioning mode with 50, 60 air winds coming out of there, and it got to the point 3, 4 days after they had the issue, and it seemed like they couldn't get it fixed. I don't know why. Told one of the officers, I said, well, let me go get my tools and show me where the unit is, and I'll fix it. He said, you probably could. It's just maintenance around here is slim to none of accuracy. I said, yeah. Um, but it got to the point where they actually handed out extra blankets because people were just so cold. And some people were, they were up in their age, 60s and 70s. So, they were on blood thinners and stuff like that. So they are more crucial to the cold temperatures. Even though I was comfortable with what I had, but they asked if I wanted extra, and I said, yeah, just in case, because I didn't know how long it's going to last or is it going to get worse. So I want to be prepared. And it lasted, it was 8 days. 8 days of that thing just running nonstop. It was so cool in there. The humidity was just non-existing. That the iced tea that they hand us, the cup was not even sweating. I mean, it's almost like it was in a freezer. It was colder on the outside of the cup than it was actually inside of it. Now, I'm glad I like coffee because I got a lot of coffee a few times. The one of the guards there, he stops and he'll talk for a while on his rounds. Usually he's in at nighttime, and he'll stand there at my door and we'll talk for good 20, 30 minutes about whatever. And he's starting to know that I like coffee. And one day he says, you really like coffee? I said, yep. Next week and a half at least, you're supposed to get, you get 1 cup of coffee. Well, I started getting 5 cups of coffee. He'll a little flap on the door. Now these back here, these are bars. It was all concrete bricks or whatever it was made out of, and the door was solid metal. It had a little flap pops down to their side, and it's like a little shelf, and they would put their tray and drinks and all. And one day he handed me my tray. I took my tray, and I can stand at the door and grab my tray and set it over onto the little shelf that I have in there without even taking a step. And then he handed me some kind of lemonade or whatever it was. Some days it tasted like tea, it was brown and all, and then sometimes it was green, it's like some kind of lime of something. And then he handed me a cup of coffee. I put the cold beverage there, and then I took my coffee, set it there, and I was waiting for him to shut the flap because that's basically what it is, the tray and the two drinks. And then next thing I know, there's another cup of coffee. I grabbed it, set it. Another cup of coffee. He just looked at me. I'm like, I didn't say nothing. I just grabbed it. And I ended up with 5 cups of coffee. That happened like 8, 9 days in a row. And it was good coffee. And then he handed me a whole handful of like creamer and stuff. But the coffee was good enough, just black. It was good. But 5 cups, and it was them little styrofoam cups. I don't know how many ounces it is. It has to be a real small. I mean, I'm putting my hand, the top of it would be at the top of my hand, the bottom of it is very small. But having 5 of them, having a guard that showed respect and go that little extra to make you more comfortable. And he just flat out, he says, you've been here for over 6 months. And he says, and I've been here at least 5 days a week for all them 6 months. And he says, the way you present yourself and the way you talk and everything else, he says, I have to say, I don't believe you did what they claimed that you did. You just don't present yourself as that kind of person. And he was in the hallway when I was walking out. My final day, it was 512 days, I think it was. On that 512th day, when my attorney came and says, well, 511, and then they said they didn't get the paperwork done. I have to spend one more night. I said, yeah, that's them trying to put that last turn on that screw to, try to say something, but it didn't work out on their favor because I walked out. Never went to court. Now, I did go to the courthouse, but that was it. I went into the waiting room that we all sit in and waiting for the judge or whatever to see or hear our case. And then they come and get that person and take them to, to courtroom and bring them back when they're done. And I never left that room. I just sat there and ate cookies and peanut butter sandwiches. And one time I got over there, it was some of the guards that get people on and off the vans. Pretty much that's where they work. That's what they do every day. And there was one that he saw me. He says, he said, you can stay on the van and just sit out here. It was nice weather that day, and they had the windows down. He said, you can sit out here. You can sit in the room in there and get you some peanut butter sandwiches because he says they're not going to see you today. They just something long time ago. I think it was something like a worthless check I had that never got taken care of because the bank closed. It was less than $15, I think it was, and the judge like, it's over 20 years. Why you even bring it up? And they just threw it out. That's what they brought me over there for. They're trying to find something because they couldn't get me on what they wanted to get me on, so they're going to try to dig up old skeletons. That was a waste of their time. They done that like 3 times. And the judge like, really? Nope. Throw it out. Like, you had over 20 years to get this taken care of, and the bank closed. It was in the statement, like the reason why the check bounced, it was like $16 and something for, I think it was Domino's Pizza, I think it was. And the bank that it was written on closed. And it didn't merge with another bank, they just closed. So they couldn't get their money, even if I wanted, whatever. It was ridiculous. And it's been so long, I forgot all about it. But they tried to bring it up and try to get me on it. And the judge, like, this is ridiculous. You're basically pissing in the wind because you're just wasting our time. And they had all that done and taken care of even before we got over there. Because the guard that was escorting us off the van down the stairs into that room, he looked at me, he said, "You're wasting your time being here." He says, "They already taken you got your case," and the judge looked at it and laughed at him and just threw it out. He said, "So you're just here for the ride today." He said, "You can sit in the van or you can go in and get you some cookies and peanut butter sandwich." I said, "Yeah, I'm a little hungry." I said, "I didn't get breakfast before I left." He said, "Okay." And I went on in and actually I got double. I got 2 sandwiches and 4 cookies. So I got a good breakfast that morning. And then when I got back, it wasn't but like 4 of us went, and the cases got taken care of real quick. So they sent us back, and we were back by like 9:30. And he says, "Are you still hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah, a little bit." So he went to the kitchen and see if he can get us something to eat. And he brought full breakfast that they had that day. So I pretty much slept that day because I had a good breakfast. And I don't eat breakfast. Even till today, I don't eat breakfast. I drink cups of coffee and that's it. I don't eat anything until at least 12, 1 o'clock. I just never have. Even when I was still living at home with my parents, I just never ate breakfast. It seemed to slow me down and made me want to just sit around. And my stomach didn't like eating that early either. Don't matter what I ate. I thought it was because I was eating sausage and grits and eggs and toast. Things are fried. That was part of it, but I was eating fruit and stuff like that to change and other things. It just don't matter what I ate. Breakfast to me, we don't coexist. So I just started eating lunch and eating a nice light dinner. And that seemed to, after a couple of months, my system kind of settled down, and it's been that way ever since. And that's what I've been doing. But it's nice to have guards in there that has that respect and just not being like hard nosed. You in here, you being basically trying to convict you before you've been even, convicted. You've been charged or falsely accused, as I was. They don't act like you're guilty. They treat you like, well, at least the ones that was in there when I was there, they acted like you're innocent until you go to court and you've been found guilty, and that's the way we're going to treat you. We're going to have to keep you in, locked up here, but we're not going to treat you like you did something wrong until it's been proven that you have. That was nice. Now, I don't know if all of them are going to be that way, but the guards that were there at the time that's the way they acted, and that's the way I was treated. Now, it might be because that's the way I treated them with respect. I don't know. And I've seen some of them officers on the street that has moved up from that position that they had of guarding at the jailhouse. Now they're on the streets, and I've seen a few of them since then. And every one of them, it was like they were in a parking lot, some kind of accident or something. And then I saw one pulled somebody over, which I was in the parking lot next to this, it's almost like the Jeep pulled out of that parking lot, and not even 300 feet down after they pulled out, they got pulled over. I saw them, officer pulling over the Jeep. So I just rode through the parking lot and just see what was going on. And I noticed the officer that was one that was actually one of the guards in there. And I just sat in my car, and they didn't let the Jeep go. They actually took the license plate off the Jeep, put the driver in back of the car and all. And I got out of the car, and I just didn't want to interrupt what they were doing. But the officer looked over there at me and noticed who I was, and actually came over and stood there for 8-10 minutes chatting, like, how you doing, and you getting your life back together, after all the BS you went through. He said, I see that they just released you because they couldn't find anything on you. He says, and that's what he was saying. He said, you just don't seem like you that kind of person. He says, I'm sorry that you had to sit there for that long for them to realize what that you didn't do anything. I said, yeah, but that's just the BS you have to go through sometimes when somebody's so eager to pin something on you when they don't have no evidence, they don't have no, not looking at the facts, and they just want another notch in their belt. I said, but I got enough patience to sit and wait until they catch up. And I said, but the tables will turn. He said, yeah, I heard. He said, hopefully you get everything that you deserve for being in there. I said, yes. I said, I do believe I will, from the way it looks. So it's nice to see officers being that way, and not as some of them I've seen in my life that just hard nosed, got a corn cob up the backside, and just like, I'm the authority and I can do whatever I want. I've seen some that way. I'm just glad we didn't have any in there when I was in there, because it would have made it even harder. It was hard enough being there, missing day after day, birthdays after birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas and Thanksgiving, more than once. It's not easy, but it just had to be done. Had to take its course, but I'm glad I came out on the winning side when it's all over. Of course, I knew that they were getting desperate when they tried to offer me something less punishable. I'm like, no, I didn't do what you claimed I'd done, and I'm not going to uh, admit that I did something that's even less charged. Only thing I'm going to want to hear from you is, here's your papers. We dropping everything. You can go home. I said, that's the only thing I want to hear from you. That's the only thing you can offer me. And of course, it was like 5 months later. That's what happened. Attorney came to me, had me come out of my cell and meet her in a meeting room where all the ones in there are able to meet with their attorneys. She didn't have her briefcase, no paperwork, no nothing. But she had that little silly little grin on her face. Like, I just looked at her and said, have they finally came to their senses and realized what the truth really is? Because you seem to be glowing with some good news. I said, yes, you're right. She says, they have dropped everything. They making the process of paperwork to get you released. And hopefully, this was like in the morning before lunch. And she says, hopefully, if things go right, we can get you out of here today. I was like, I'm not going to get my hopes up. They'll mess that up too. And lo and behold, they did. It started getting 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, waiting for the intercom that's in our room, that they say, hey, your attorney's here, you need to go to a certain room. Then the door opens and you walk out. Started getting 8, 9 o'clock, nothing. 12 o'clock, midnight, nothing. It wasn't until the next day that I went and talked to her. She said they finally got the paperwork. She said, "You're right. They screwed it up, but they got it all. I got it here." She says, "Now you need to go back to your cell, and this afternoon I'll call you. We got everything in order here. Since we got the papers from the courtroom over to here now, then we need to get everything straight here to get you out of here. We need to take the process of showing them the papers and everything, showing that you've been released and all. And then you will come down and get your clothes and everything, and then you can make a phone call or somebody to come pick you up or whatever." And that afternoon, that's exactly what happened. But I just didn't realize it's going to be 512 days sitting there without all that BS. But that's the way it goes sometimes. But little things, if you know somebody's in there, regardless if they're guilty or not guilty or whatever, little things can make it easier for them, especially ones that's been falsely accused, is write them a letter. I've had people, even family, I hate to say it, but family members never came by to see me all that time. No visits. Not all, some of them did. Some of them were pretty much regular, but some just never showed up. And I got out and I'm like, "Well, see, you couldn't get time to come by. It was over a year. You couldn't find not one time." "No, we were pretty busy." I'm like, "Okay." Then I was like, "Last time I checked, before I got in there and got falsely accused, the post office still works. They were still in business. So why didn't you write a letter? Postcard?" No excuse. You couldn't take 10 minutes out of your time and write a letter, put a stamp on it, and mail it. Tells me what kind of person you really are. I let them know exactly how I felt about that as well, even to this day. I'm not holding a grudge. I just want to be sure they understand how wrong they were for not looking out for family. It's a shame, but that's the way some people are, regardless who they are. Now, of course, if they get in a bind that way, I'll be visit them at least once, if not twice a week, and write them a letter just as often. Phone call them, talk to them on the phone, put money on their canteen so they can get things if they want it. I don't judge people just because they are in there. I'm not going to crucify somebody. "Well, if you're in jail, then you must be guilty." Well, that can be another whole video, how much of a BS that is. There's people that go in there that's falsely accused, and there's people that is guilty and never even see inside of a jail because they never get caught. There's people that actually go to jail and they're guilty and they actually get set free. So, but I knew when I was in there, I was innocent, and I was determined, regardless how long it takes, to prove that's exactly what it was. Falsely accused. But the system needs a lot of work. It sure does. It needs a lot of work. Because my attorney showed them evidence of what is really going on, and they just ignored it and just tried to hang me out to dry. Then I got another attorney. Boy, she was on fire. She was going to determine to do whatever it takes to prove that I'm innocent. And it was a very short period of time after I got a new attorney that things turned around quickly. It was almost like every other week, every 3 weeks, she came over and we sat down and talked. The other one pretty much came when I got in there and talked, and I didn't see that person for 2 months. Like, am I just another number on your paper and you get to me when you can? An innocent person needs, attention instantly. But they were just that particular attorney was just not doing its job. But the second one I got, it was day and night difference, and I'm glad I got that one because there's no telling how long I would sat in there if I kept the first one. I told that one just bye. The second one's just she fought harder to get me out of there than they did to keep me in there. Everything that they try to throw at us, she like, that's garbage. Almost like the judge, like that's BS. You just wasting our time, and just get it overturned and just thrown out. Didn't even have to take me to court. She just took it in front of the judge or whatever and just got it overturned. And I never went to court. And then shows up and says, okay, you're going to be released today or tomorrow. If I had that attorney from the beginning, I probably wouldn't have been in there no more than 5-6 months at the most. I mean, when it was at least 6-7 months when I got the new attorney. And the first time I met her, she said all the DNA testing and all that has not been processed. I said, what the hell? It's been 6-7 months. That would prove in my favor. She said that's probably why they hadn't processed it. Well, within a month and a half, it got processed, and that's when everything started turning around. They didn't have anything because there was nothing else that they were using as evidence. And that's when they started pulling all these little things from the skeletons, that I had, 2 or 3 things like, $16 worth of this check. When the bank closed, that's why it didn't get processed. They were trying everything. Then when they ran out, the attorney says, okay, you can go home now because y'all don't have anything else. So that's what makes me think if I had that attorney in the beginning, 5-6 months, I would have been out of there because she would got all the evidence that they claimed they had processed, and then they would not have anything else, and then they had to let me go. The system is broken. Some of the DAs need to be slapped in the face a few times, come back to reality, the way things should be ran. Not get agenda like, okay, we got this person, we're going to pin it on him, don't matter what. That's what they seem to try to do. And the thing is, how many people in there that cannot withstand all the BS that they throw at them, and they break down and they will plead to something even though they didn't do it, less charge, and get locked up just because they just couldn't take it anymore. How many innocent people actually get locked up because of that? And that's probably what the DA was hoping. So get me locked up, get me accused, convicted of something, and put something on my record. Didn't work. Got falsely accused, didn't have anything on my record. It got expunged. And I even wrote a book about it. So go look it up on pretty much any major website that sells books, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, or go to your local store, bookstore, and actually ask for it. And if they don't have it in stock, they can order it for you. But that will do it for this video. Like I said, I'm going to try my best to make more videos and try to at least do one a week. And it's going to be on the same day each week. It's what I got planned on Mondays. And it will be released at 9 p.m. is what I'm going to try my best to do, make it during the day. And I may even go live. There's no telling since I got good internet here in the studio now. But be sure you hit that subscribe button. Be sure you hit the like button. And be sure you hit the bell notification. Be sure you share this channel and videos so others can come over and listen to the stories that I have of being falsely accused and sitting behind bars for over a year. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.